In today's scene of focus from the gospel, Jesus enters a house, and it reads, "He did not want anyone to know he was there, yet he could not escape notice. A woman whose little daughter had an unclean spirit came and bowed down at his feet, and the woman was a Gentile, a non-Jew, in other words. And she begged Jesus to cast the demon out of her daughter." So Jesus was attempting to escape from the demands of the crowd, and his pursuit of some peace and some quiet was interrupted by a Syrophoenician woman who was looking for help. And friends, his response to her pleas is troubling. To her pleas for help, Jesus was frankly irritable and rude. In fact, one could even argue, and some scholars do, that Jesus was not just rude, but prejudiced. He not only dismissed her, he went further. And he told her that he effectively feeds real people, not dogs. As it says, he said to her, "Let the children be fed first, for it is not fair to take their food and throw it to the dogs." I mean, that's a pretty mean thing to say to a person in need, and hard to explain coming from Jesus. At best, it's a moment of impatience by Jesus. And that'd still be unusual, because so far in the Gospel of Mark, he has shown remarkable patience with people interrupting him. For instance, he was trying to rest when 5,000 hungry people disrupted him, and he responded with compassion. In another case in the Gospel of Mark, he was on his way to heal Jairus' daughter when a woman grabbed his coat, interrupting him along the way, and yet again he acted with compassion, not annoyance. And speaking of Jairus, Jesus' response to the woman here is strikingly different from his response to Jairus. Says scholar Mary Ann Tolbert, Jesus willingly joined Jairus, despite just getting off the boat, and he comes up and tells him everything that he needs. Jesus willingly joins Jairus, but to this foreign woman, he expresses immediate refusal. And I'd add not only refusal, but insult. Calling her and her daughter dogs? This is disconcerting when you run into a text like this. And perhaps it can be partially explained by the fact that we confess that Jesus is fully human as much as he is fully God. So indeed, if Jesus can die, and Jesus can feel pain, and Jesus can express sadness to the point of weeping like he did over Lazarus, then it's logical that Jesus would also have the human capacity to be tired and irritable like he was with this Syrophoenician woman. But still, why her? Is it because she was foreign and not Jewish, which the text names explicitly? But that too would also be odd, because Jesus speaks well of a Roman non-Jewish soldier and even heals his servant upon request in Matthew 8. Not only that, Jesus healed a foreign person 2 chapters ago in Mark, chapter 5. The demoniac from Decapolis, a non-Jew. So the fact that she is foreign and not Jewish doesn't explain his rudeness. So why so mean, Jesus? Some scholars try to soften his words by suggesting that this rudeness was merely a test, that the insult wasn't real, but rather was meant to test her faith and her response. Well, I don't know about that. That still sounds pretty lame to me. Why not do that to all others then? Why just this woman? One scholar, David Lose, explains that testing her as an interpretation of this passage is a weak interpretation. The trouble with the interpretation that Jesus is testing her is that A, nothing like it occurs anywhere else in the Gospels. B, there is no mention of testing in the story. And C, it still creates a rather cold-hearted picture of God who taunts people in their moments of need. Troubling passage. So still, why, Jesus, were you so rude and so mean? All I can tell you as we wrestle with this text together is I don't know. Again, I do think it's important to remember that we believe Jesus to be fully God and fully human. And this is perhaps just a fully human moment for Jesus. That'd be an honest representation of his full humanity. But to be sure, the story does not end there. The woman ends up being the hero of the story, perhaps. Because the woman challenges Jesus' metaphor. She says, "Sir, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." In other words, "Sir, you might call us dogs, but even foreign non-Jews like us have basic needs." And stunningly, upon her critique of his behavior, Jesus had an immediate change of heart. It's incredible. The woman convinced Jesus that he was wrong. One scholar emphasizes a fascinating point. The woman is the only character in the entire Gospel of Mark to best Jesus in an argument. And then, beautifully, Jesus acknowledges her clever and daring reply and tells her that her original request has been granted, that her daughter was healed. What a wild story. It might be hard to ever fully understand, but because of the way it ends, I do think there's a powerful lesson here from Jesus. I think that Jesus sets an example for all of us on how to listen to people and be willing to change when we're wrong. To use a cliche, he shows us how to eat crow, how to be wrong and then be better. More specifically, I think Jesus offers us an example of how to treat those whom we've unfairly judged, of how to go from being prejudiced and judgmental to humble and compassionate. Again, he at first refused and insulted the woman, and then she defended herself, and he listened to her. And moreover, he self-corrected. One commentator explains, a moment before, she was but a dog to him. And in the next, he listens to her, and he sees her for what she truly is, a human being in need. And Jesus allows himself to be fundamentally changed. By doing that, Jesus gives us an example of how to change our hearts from being judgmental to loving. His example compels us to dare to listen to those whom we bully or neglect, to those whom we judge and demonize or hate, for the person we don't like at work, for the kid at school whom we try to avoid, for the family member with whom we can't get along, for the poor whom we assume are lazy, for the rich whom we assume are greedy, for the opposite political opinion which we assume is evil or dumb, for the immigrant we assume is dangerous, for the oppressed whom we think are overreacting, and all else whom we judge unfairly and too quickly. Jesus offers us an example. Listen to them and be open to our hearts being changed. As the philosopher Peter Rollin remarks in his commentary, if Jesus is happy to admit being wrong, then so must we. Whatever the exact meaning behind Jesus' irritability by the end of the story, the woman and Jesus offer us examples of faith and of love. The woman shows us how to be authentic, and Jesus shows us how to be humbled. He shows us how to listen. And he shows us how to let our hearts be open to change. And in so doing, he reveals his ultimate movement towards all of us, a movement of love and acceptance. Thanks be to God. Amen.